Have you ever wondered why a man trembles the moment he betrays his own law? He may not show it, not yet, but something ancient within him begins to rot. The moment he crosses himself, he opens a door in the psyche that no logic can close. Every rule a man builds is a mirror of his inner order. Break it, and the reflection turns against him. His mask smiles, but the soul behind it starts to scream. That is how disintegration begins, quietly, without witnesses under the skin. He once thought discipline was a performance, a posture others could admire, but discipline is not for admiration. It is the skeletal structure of the masculine spirit. When he breaks his word, when he retreats from his own boundaries to please a woman or to be adored, the fracture is spiritual. He begins to lose gravity. The world stops orbiting around his center. He becomes weightless, a drifting ego seeking warmth in the cold gaze of another. And she, the woman before him, feels it instantly. The body of a man who has betrayed himself vibrates differently. His eyes plead. His touch asks permission. His voice falters where it once commanded. He still wears the shape of authority, but the energy is gone. The animus within her, the masculine principle, senses his collapse. It recoils. For a woman cannot follow what no longer leads. She may stay, but she stops trusting. She starts to test. Every test is a prayer to the gods of strength. Show me that you can hold me without breaking yourself. Most men fail those prayers. They respond to feminine chaos not with stillness but with fear. They argue, explain, justify, collapse into apology. They abandon their post at the gate of self-respect. And when they do, something terrible happens. The woman stops loving and starts observing. Her eyes become mirrors again. She studies the man like a fallen statue, wondering how a god could forget he was divine. In that moment, she becomes silence. Not the silence of surrender, the silence of judgment. She watches his moral code bleed out in the dust. Every compromise he makes to regain her affection only deepens her contempt. For a man's worth is not in how much he loves, but in how much he refuses to betray his own soul for love. This is where the dark feminine awakens. She appears not as comfort but as reckoning. Her eyes hold no mercy because mercy has no place in revelation. She does not soothe him. She mirrors his weakness until it consumes him. He sees himself through her, and what he sees is unbearable. The mother complex inside him shatters. He realizes that no woman can replace the father he never faced, the inner king he never crowned. His heart turns inward and finds nothing but a void echoing his own voice, begging for permission to exist. That is when he finally understands. The betrayal was never about her. It was about himself. Every promise he broke to please her was a confession that he did not believe in his own worth. Every rule he softened for love was a declaration of self-abandonment. And the feminine, ruthless, instinctive, divine, punishes self-abandonment with disgust. Not because she hates him, but because nature hates weakness pretending to be strength. You who listen to this now, do not pity such a man. Study him. Remember him. Let him be a mirror of warning. Never follow a man who has betrayed himself, for he will one day betray you. And never betray yourself to keep a man, for you will birth his contempt. This is how the polarity collapses. The masculine becomes the child, the feminine becomes the mother, and love becomes decay. Only shadow work can resurrect what has fallen. He must face the beast he has denied, the cowardice, the need for validation, the hunger to be liked. He must wrestle with it in silence until his own reflection no longer flinches. Then, and only then, can he reclaim the crown he threw at her feet. Tonight, let this truth burn quietly in the back of your mind. Power is not in how loudly you speak, but in how little you explain. If someone cannot feel your boundary without you uttering a word, you have ascended beyond the realm of emotional negotiation. Sit in silence. Do not justify. Do not chase. Let someone feel your absence like a funeral. He thinks her silence is cruelty. He does not understand that silence is the highest form of truth. Words are for those who still hope to be understood. Silence is for those who have already seen the end. When she withdraws her voice, she withdraws his illusion. The echo of her absence becomes the only conversation he can have. He begins to circle his memories, trying to find the moment she turned. He cannot see that it wasn't a single moment, it was a slow erosion of respect. Each time he broke his own rule, she took note. Every apology that replaced accountability, every justification disguised as vulnerability, she watched. The feminine sees through the details. She feels integrity the way an animal feels weather. When it shifts, she knows. No argument can deceive her body's instinct. Now he kneels before that instinct, not as lover but as subject. The dark feminine does not punish, she exposes. She holds a mirror before him and forces him to look. The reflection shows not what he wanted to be, but what he is: fragmented, compliant, ashamed of his own need. His mask cracks, and what leaks through is not malice but weakness. The animus within her recoils again, knowing that this weakness is contagious. He reaches for her, hoping to remind her of tenderness. But tenderness without power is begging in disguise. The masculine without boundaries becomes the boy who still wants his mother to forgive him. And she, now wearing the face of the Shadow Queen, cannot love a boy disguised as a man. She does not hate him, she transcends him. Her eyes turn cold not because she feels nothing, but because she feels too much and refuses to drown in it. He senses the distance and begins to chase. The chase is not pursuit of her but escape from himself. He thinks if he can win her back, he can silence the guilt that hunts him in dreams. But the psyche is merciless. What the ego refuses to face, the unconscious repeats until death or awakening. He meets rejection again and again, each time more humiliating, each time more divine. This is the crucifixion of the false self. And she, standing unmoved, becomes the storm that baptizes him. Her indifference is sacred violence. It annihilates the fantasy of control. Through her rejection, he meets his own shadow, the one he exiled behind success, charm, intellect. The woman he cannot possess becomes the goddess who dismantles him. Her absence is his initiation. Her disdain, his purification. Only through her silence does he begin to hear the inner chaos he has avoided all his life. You listening now must understand. The feminine tests not to destroy but to reveal. When she pulls away, she is asking if you will stand alone. When she withdraws her warmth, she is asking if your fire was ever real. When she turns her back, she is not abandoning. She is transforming the stage so the real can appear. The man who fails this test blames her. The man who passes thanks her in silence and builds himself anew. She was once soft, once forgiving. She once believed that if she loved deeply enough, he would rise. But love cannot raise the dead. Compassion cannot resurrect integrity. So she withdrew, not out of malice, but evolution. She became what nature intended, the mirror that does not lie. In her absence, his soul begins to rot or rebuild. That choice is his alone. In the mythic mirror of Jung, this is the dance of anima and animus, the eternal tension between form and chaos. When the man betrays his form, chaos rises. The woman becomes the agent of that chaos, the storm that devours his false light. Through her, he meets the abyss. Through the abyss, he meets himself. Only by surviving her rejection can he learn sovereignty, the state of being ungoverned by validation. So listen carefully. The world will call her cold. It will call her cruel. But cruelty is what truth feels like to the weak. When she turns away, she is not punishing, she is mirroring. She is the hand of natural law, stripping illusion from flesh. Her silence teaches the lesson no words can give. You do not deserve what you cannot hold. Tonight, close your mouth. Stop asking for explanations. Watch who panics in your stillness. Watch who cannot tolerate your peace. Their discomfort is your confirmation. You are no longer their mirror. You have become their judgment. He thought she was testing his love. She was testing his structure. There is a difference. Love is emotional, structure is spiritual. A man's structure is what holds the world together when chaos demands worship. When he abandons it, everything he touches begins to fall apart: her trust, his purpose, the quiet dignity of his name. The universe withdraws from those who betray their own design. He begins to feel it as a weight in his chest. The heaviness of knowing he no longer believes in himself. He once stood like stone, now he sways like grass. He tells himself he is being kind, understanding, evolved. but she feels the lie before he speaks it. A woman does not fall for weakness disguised as morality. She can smell the difference between compassion and fear. The scent of submission poisons attraction. She feels it in her bones, even when her mind still wants to forgive. Her silence now has become ritual. She no longer argues, no longer explains. She lets his words fall into the void and dissolve there. Each unanswered message, each ignored plea, each slow turn of her head, all of it is sacred theater. It is the goddess enacting justice through absence. He called her heartless, but her silence was mercy, because speech would have destroyed him faster. The feminine shadow is not gentle. It arrives like the moon at its fullest, illuminating everything he tried to keep hidden. She does not need to shout. Light reveals without effort. He begins to see his own reflection not in her affection but in her distance. The more he reaches, the further she fades. This is the geometry of power. The more he clings, the smaller he becomes. The more she withdraws, the larger her aura grows. He does not yet know that he is facing himself. She is no longer a person. She has become his projection. Every fear of abandonment, every unhealed wound of rejection, every unacknowledged dependence now wears her face. The shadow animus within her observes this collapse without emotion. She has seen many fall like him, men who mistook compliance for love, men who wanted comfort more than truth. The world is full of them, broken kings begging to be crowned by the very queens they betrayed. You who listen understand this. When a man breaks his own rule, he calls forth the witch. The witch is not evil, she is equilibrium. She appears when order decays. Her energy dismantles false virtue and burns weakness to ash. She is the archetype of consequence, the feminine face of cosmic correction. The man will see her as punishment, but she is purification. Through her, he is forced to confront his unclaimed power, the kingdom he abandoned within. He will resist. The ego always resists. He will rationalize, blame, plead for understanding. But understanding is a gift the witch never gives. She gives clarity, sharp, cold, unadorned. Her presence strips him to essence. His excuses dissolve, his persona fades, and all that remains is truth. And truth is unbearable for those who have lived as masks. Watch him now. He cannot sleep. He replays her words, her gaze, her silence, each memory a dagger turning inward. He begins to remember who he was before the lies. He feels the hunger for strength rise again, the ancient instinct to stand. Pain becomes teacher. Rejection becomes right. The very silence that haunted him begins to heal him. Through the absence of her warmth, he rediscovers the warmth of his own fire. And she feels nothing. Not pride, not regret. She has ascended beyond the polarity. She has become archetype, untouchable, sovereign, detached. Her silence no longer serves to punish, it simply is. Like winter, like death, like truth. She knows that his fall was necessary. Some men cannot be saved by love, they must be purified by loss. You too must learn this detachment. Never flinch when the weak accuse you of cruelty. Never apologize for the peace that follows your departure. If your silence feels like death to them, it is because their survival depended on your submission. Withdraw it and they suffocate. That is not your crime, it is their initiation. So tonight, let stillness be your weapon. Do not reach, do not explain. Let the ones who broke themselves collapse without your rescue. Let their noise echo into emptiness. The dark knows how to teach. The void knows how to rebuild. You need only hold your silence and watch them meet themselves at last. He walks through the ruins of his own choices now. Every rule he broke stares back at him like a corpse. The promises he made to himself, the boundaries he swore to defend, all lie scattered like bones in a forgotten field. This is where the man who once commanded becomes the man who kneels, not before her but before his own shadow. The dark reflection waits in silence, patient, merciless, ancient. He begins to realize that her silence was never personal, it was archetypal. She became the vessel through which the universe mirrored his decay. When he begged for softness, she offered stone. When he sought redemption, she offered distance. Not to punish, but to remind him. The feminine does not heal what the masculine refuses to face. Compassion without strength only breeds dependency. Forgiveness without consequence feeds corruption. She gave him neither. Now he feels the weight of absence as a physical hunger. He reaches for distractions, for validation, for anyone who will echo the comfort he lost. But comfort is poison to a soul in initiation. The universe will not give him relief until he faces the truth, that every time he broke his word, a part of his soul turned away. What he feels as loneliness is not her departure. It is the loss of his own alignment. He remembers the first time he bent a rule for love. It felt noble then. It felt selfless. But every compromise whispered the same curse. I am not enough unless I surrender myself. And so, piece by piece, he hollowed out his sovereignty. By the time she turned cold, there was nothing left in him to warm. He mistook her detachment for cruelty, but she was only reflecting his own absence back at him. Her silence did not kill him. It revealed that he was already dead. This is the secret of the dark feminine. She does not destroy, she unveils. She rips away illusion until truth stands naked and shivering. She is not the wound, she is the mirror that shows it. To meet her is to meet the truth one has buried beneath charm, intellect, and conquest. She is not the woman he wants. She is the woman he deserves when he refuses to evolve. But there is beauty in ruin. When the false self finally collapses, the real one begins to breathe. From the ashes of humiliation rises the first spark of authenticity. The man who has faced his shadow no longer needs worship. He does not perform strength, he embodies it. He does not seek to be understood, he seeks to be aligned. He does not chase the feminine, he meets her as equal fire. And she senses the shift. When a man returns to his integrity, the air changes around him. There is weight again, silence that commands respect, not through dominance but through presence. The dark feminine no longer tests him because there is nothing left to test. He has entered the realm of sovereignty, where love is no longer transaction but recognition. Two powers meeting without begging, without deception, without fear. But most never reach this point. Most remain trapped in the loop, breaking their rules, seeking forgiveness, mistaking pity for affection. They decay while calling it devotion. They confuse emotional chaos for passion, control for masculinity, surrender for love. They never understand that the feminine does not want perfection. She wants coherence. She wants the man whose word holds weight because it is backed by silence. The one who would rather be alone than dishonest. The one who loves without losing himself. You must learn this art, the art of withholding explanation, of letting your absence speak where words fail. When you withdraw, you invoke the ancient law. What is false will crumble, what is real will endure. The weak will call you cold, the lost will call you cruel. Let them. Power is never understood by those who need reassurance. Power is recognized only by those who have met their own abyss. So sit tonight in your own darkness. Feel what it means to hold your silence without shaking. You owe no one your softness. You owe no one your explanation. Let the world misinterpret your distance. It will purify your circle. From silence, rebuild your law. From detachment, resurrect your fire. Those who can stand in your quiet deserve to witness your voice. The rest will fade into myth, as all illusions do. She no longer watches him. The lesson is complete. What remains is silence, vast, immaculate, infinite. He moves through it like a ghost who has finally seen his reflection and understood that it was never her he was chasing, but the fragments of himself he abandoned along the way. The woman is gone, but the archetype remains, the eternal mirror of consequence. Her absence becomes scripture. Her silence becomes law. He tries to fill the void with new faces, new words, new stories, but everything tastes like ash now. The charm that once drew others has lost its sheen because it was built on illusion. He can no longer pretend. The feminine within every woman now confronts him with the same truth, integrity or isolation. There is no middle ground. Every gaze he meets feels like a judgment, but it is not them. It is his soul speaking through their eyes. This is the realm of shadow integration, where the ego finally kneels to the self. Carl Jung called it individuation, the death of the false, the birth of the whole. To reach it, a man must die many small deaths, the death of pride, of denial, of the savior complex, of the need to be adored. Each death burns the residue of the boy who wanted approval instead of purpose. What survives is silence, the clean, unshakable silence of truth. He begins to rebuild differently now. No grand declarations, no frantic redemption arcs, just quiet decisions that align with his core. He speaks less, promises less, but when he acts, the world moves, the structure returns, and for the first time his word feels sacred again. The masculine rebuilt from ruin becomes elemental, not theatrical but inevitable, like mountains, like fire, like nightfall. And somewhere beyond his sight she feels it. The woman who once watched his collapse senses the change, though she no longer thinks of him. Energy recognizes energy. Her body, tuned to truth, feels the reemergence of weight, the vibration of a man who has reclaimed his law. She does not turn toward him, but she acknowledges the balance restored. Nature sighs in relief when order returns to its rightful place. Yet the dark feminine does not soften. She never was softness, she was balance. Her silence remains eternal and sovereign. She teaches without speaking, loves without attaching, destroys without hate. Through her, men learn that boundaries are sacred altars, not cages. Through her, women remember that power is not in pleading but in withdrawing. The witch, the siren, the Medusa, all faces of the same truth. The feminine in her wholeness is not a caretaker, but a force of correction. You must learn to become that force. Stop raise. Cueing the weak, stop explaining your worth. Let those who betray themselves feel the consequence of distance. Do not try to save a man from his shadow, let him wrestle it alone. You are not his redemption, you are his reflection. When he breaks his own rule, step back and watch the gods finish their work. Do not interrupt karma with compassion. The age of the pleasing woman is ending. The age of the sovereign woman has begun. She does not chase, she does not justify, she does not prove. She simply exists in truth, and the world rearranges itself around her gravity. Men who have not faced themselves will call her dangerous, and they are right. She is dangerous to illusions, to weakness, to the lies that built civilizations of control. But to the awakened, she is sacred. She is the gate to wholeness. So let the silence remain. Let your distance be the sermon. Let every boundary you hold be a prayer to the goddess within you, the one who knows that love without respect is decay. There is no cruelty in your calm. There is no arrogance in your solitude. Only law, only order, only the quiet hum of a soul that refuses to shrink for anyone. And if he returns, not with promises, not with apology, but with presence, you will know. You will see it in the way he stands, in the way he no longer asks for understanding. He will not need forgiveness because he has forgiven himself. And you, unbothered, eternal, will offer no reward, only recognition, two beings who have passed through fire and emerged whole. Nothing to fix, nothing to beg for, only truth finally meeting itself in another. The woman who knows her worth does not argue, she vanishes.